something that I think probably is a little different than you may have heard before. You know, when you talk about the role of a woman in the whole scheme of the husband-wife relationship, whatever, you've kind of always heard it was like um, the man was kind of up here, and he had all these responsibilities, and it was just the woman's job to kind of help him out with those responsibilities. That kind of is the way we've always heard it, but when the Bible describes it, I want you to look at this verse, because this is where we're talking about where Eve was made. Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it says, "And the Lord said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a help meet for him." Okay, when you think of meat, you think of this, right?
Oh, yeah,
Together, and you meet. In other words, you're on, you're on an equal level. Now, a lot of times we've kind of been, I don't know, maybe brought up to believe that we're not quite. I mean, I always felt like, well, does that mean I'm second-class citizen to the men? Does that mean us women are looked at a little bit less than what the men are? And I do not believe that that is the case. But I do believe that there are roles that men have, and then there are roles that we as women have. And one of the things that, one of the roles, I mean, one of the ways you can describe it is, there are certain, in my relationship with my husband, and I'll get to other things in a minute. I don't want y'all to think I'm just talking about marriage, because I'm talking about other things too. But one of the things is we have kind of had, these are our responsibilities. We have responsibilities, and if you just line them all up like sticks, there are certain ones that we have decided that are my responsibility. There are certain things that I do normally. My husband doesn't, I don't know the last time he used a vacuum cleaner. That's just kind of the way it kind of worked out in our home. There were things like when he used to teach college in the evenings, and during that time he would be gone till he'd come home about 10 o'clock at night, and it would be my job to put the kids to bed. And of course, that in turn became my responsibility to make sure that our kids had an evening devotion. Normally you think you've heard, well, that's the man's responsibility. He's supposed to take care of the spiritual aspects of the house. And it doesn't always work out that way. It's just whatever you agree to. It's just you meeting together and deciding what works for you. Okay? So it is not necessarily what you have heard all these years, that we're just kind of humbly sit back and do whatever he tells us to. It's an agreement that I think we make. And I kind of wanted to put that out there because I want you to understand that there are certain responsibilities that you have as a woman. And that's what we're going to kind of be talking about today. If I were to say to you, how many of you really want to, in the end, say that your life really made a difference? Wouldn't we all say, well, yeah, man, when I'm gone, I really want to look back and say that I made a difference in the life of somebody or something. And so I think we all feel that way. We all want to make a difference. So if I were to ask you, okay, if you were to die today and your funeral for tomorrow, I want you to think about this. How would you be remembered? How would people describe you? How would your husband describe you? How would your children describe you? How would your friends describe you? Would they describe you as, she was moody, she was a drama queen, blah, blah, blah. Just all these kinds of things that you really need to think about because you want your life to make a difference for the good. Now I want you to think about what changes you need to make in order to accomplish that. Now that you've decided, okay, here's what I want. I want to be thought of as, we talk about this in our Sunday school class, If you had to narrow it down to one word, how do you want to be described? What's the most important thing? Is it kind? Is it giving? Is it forgiving? Somebody just say something. How many of you ever thought about it and would say, this is the way I want to be described? Somebody just say something out.
Caring.
Caring, definitely. Anybody else have thought about it to the extent that you would say, yeah, this is how I want to be described?
Faithful.
Good one.
Hardworking is a big one to me. I hate the thought of laziness. Laziness gets on my nerves. So I always want to be thought of as a hard worker, dependable. A lot of those things. Those things don't just happen. I don't just decide today and become that tomorrow. It takes years and years of living the way you should live in order to accomplish that. And so that means you've got to get started now. You've got to get started now. I hope that none of you would say, oh my goodness, sure enough, if I were to die today, my funeral's tomorrow, people will be going, oh man, that selfish, mean old grumpy thing. It's about, who's going to miss her. Or that they're negative or unfaithful. Nobody wants to be described that way. Well, that's what God wants for us as well. And I'm going to hopefully walk you through some things that I hope are going to help you accomplish this. Now, to do this, we're going to have to make some choices, some commitments, and we're going to have to set some priorities. But we're going to have to start with God's priorities. You've got to look at, what does God want for me? What is pleasing to Him in the way I act, the way I conduct myself, the way I live? What truly is pleasing to Him? If I set priorities, of course I've got to make them God's priorities. Now, what most of you are going to say is, oh my goodness, if I add one more thing to my life, I couldn't possibly do that. That's our biggest obstacle when it comes to saying, okay, let's make some priorities and let's make sure that God's at the top of our priorities. And let me just say this too. When I say God, I don't mean church. I mean God. Okay, that's different than church. I think we've all kind of put those, we thought all along that those were lumped together, and they are kind of related. But there is something, when you come to church here today, that's different than what you experience in your everyday personal walk with Jesus.
That's right.
It's completely different. You can come here and you can put on a mask, and none of us will ever know what you really are. But you know what you really are. And so you are going to have to make the choices and the commitments to put God first. And then, of course, I think family comes second, and then church comes down in there, third or fourth maybe. So it's completely different. I'm talking about really, really working on your personal relationship with God. That is so important. When I look at all these women in here, I can almost guarantee you that 90% of you would say, my personal walk with God is lacking big time. I bet you 90% of you would say that. And you know it. You know you need to do better. You just really kind of don't really know what to do. So hopefully I'm going to help you with that today. And busyness, I know busyness is a problem, but everybody has 24 hours in a day. Everybody has the same amount of time. And a lot of this can boil down, the reason we don't walk with the Lord the way we should, we don't put Him first, is because we don't know how to manage our time. And hopefully this